sugar and spice. There's an apple pie in Sammy's Cottage kitchen.
Hi, welcome to Sammy's Cottage Kitchen. That's what it says right here, Sammy's Cottage Kitchen. I'm Sammy. This is the Cottage Kitchen. We are in Langenberg. That's where I hail from at this time in my life. Today I want to make for you biscuits, the best buttery buttermilk biscuits I know. Learned it from my grandmother. So I like doing some of these comfort foods. It's a rainy day. Another good day for baking, because it's nothing as cozy as feeling the warmth and smelling something baking when you walk in the house when it's cool outside, whether it's winter, whether it's a rainy spring or summer day. That's what I like. What I'm going to do is I'm making a brunch menu today. We're going to do a couple of things. If you caught my first show, I made an extra pie crust when I was making the famous Sammy's Canadian apple pie, although I don't think I can claim that recipe. I've tweaked a few things is all. And I made an extra crust so that I can make a quiche. Now, the biscuits, obviously, that I'm going to be making go very well with a quiche. If you got company coming, it would have been a great idea to have that quiche crust in your freezer. And it's a glorified omelet, that's for sure. But I will go through that later. We're going to start with the biscuit. I'm going to start, I've got 1/4 cup of butter in this pan. I'm going to take that pan and I'm going to put it in already heated oven because I want that butter to melt. The biscuits are going to sit in the butter. So yeah, not diet food. I've also got 3 cups of all-purpose flour in here and about 1/4 teaspoon of salt. And in this little dish, I've got baking powder and baking soda. I've got 4 teaspoons of baking powder and 1 teaspoon of baking soda. That brings me to a little story of when I spent a little time down in Nashville, you know, trying to be a country music star. That's a few years back. Don't want to talk about how many years back that is, but it was a great experience. I learned how to make biscuits when I was there. I had 2 ladies I lived with. Bertha, I'll never forget her. She was just the loveliest southern gal. And Ruth. Ruth had such a southern drawl that I couldn't understand her. I felt like an idiot, quite frankly, because I said, "Pardon me," all the time. And it was just that she spoke with such a twang. And they thought I had an accent. I think that's kind of funny. Anyway, one of the tricks she had was by adding soda to the baking powder, and I had never known that before. One of the other tricks is, instead of taking a pastry blender, I don't know where I put it, that I use like for making the pie shells, you take a box grater like this, and you take frozen butter, because you're going to want this to be really flaky. So you take the frozen butter and you grate it on the grater, about 1/2 cup. And you're going to put that into the flour mixture. But it just mixes in beautifully without any, having to work the dough at all. So it's a little frozen, so it takes a bit of arm wrestling. But what the heck, it's good for you. So I'm going to say it looks like a lot more butter than 1/2 cup. But really that's all it is 1/2 cup. And you take all of it. Wash your hand because it's going to be greasy. Now, I've got a fork. And you're going to put that butter into the flour. Put that to the side. And I'm going to just blend it in together like that. You see? It's just a beautiful, it's all in there. That's what's going to create the flakes in the biscuit. Now I'm pre-preparing my space here. I'm going to pour the buttermilk because we're going to need 2 cups of buttermilk in this mixture. That's the only liquid there is. Got to remove the box grater. I won't be needing that again. And the butter. Now, just before I forget, I had put the butter in a pan in the oven. Oh, it's still melting. I'll just leave it in there for a little while. It needs a good 5 minutes. I've left a few dribblings of butter in there. And now I'm going to need some flour because, again, I'm going to be rolling the biscuit dough out. So you got to flour the... I have this wonderful... what do you call that? It's a sheet that really doesn't... things don't stick to. What was I thinking when I put away the rolling pin earlier today? Now I'm going to take the buttermilk, that's 1 cup, and 2 cups. You put them in very quickly because this dough will rise really fast. But I want to get this in the oven so that they're baking and ready to go while I'm making the egg dishes, the quiche. And I have another egg dish that I didn't tell you about. That's going to be a surprise. It's a signature dish. I want to keep my hands with the flour because I don't want the dough to be sticking to my hand or to the board. So you always have an extra half a cup of flour handy for that. Because it's an old-fashioned recipe, it isn't an exact measurement. And I think sometimes it's fun just to do the old-fashioned recipes because of that. And that's just my oven telling me it came to heat. And maybe I have a timer that's going on. Off with the timer. Now it's a very light and gushy kind of dough, which makes my hands very messy. But that's easily cleaned. Just gotta move the bowl to the side and take cold water. Whenever you're trying to clean your hands or any kind of board surfaces or anything like that, you've got dough, you want cold water, not hot. You ever tried cleaning a bowl that you had dough in and you clean it with hot water? It just cooks. It just cooks. It's not good. I just bent down here to the flour bin because I got a beautiful flour bin on the bottom to sprinkle more flour. See, it started to rise really fast. But it doesn't hurt to push it down because I'm going to want to roll this out. Roll it out and layer it. And that's what's going to give it all its wonderful flaky layers. That and the butter, of course. There you go. See, I'm getting quite a nice ball now. What you're going to do with the rolling pin is you're going to try to roll from the center out. But it's really smart to try to make a rectangle out of it, not a round circle when you're folding it, because now I'm going to be rolling it like that, but I'm going to fold it kind of like a letter in 3. Flip it over. I'm working fairly fast because if you don't work fast with it, well, it's just going to start rising before you're ready for it. These biscuits do not take long to cook, so you know, if you just don't have bread in the house, or yeah, like I said, you're getting a visitor in a hurry, you can do all kinds of different things with biscuits. You can add cheese, and then you serve it with a bowl of soup, or just because you like cheese. You can also add herbs de Provence. That's a nice mixture where you got a little bit of rosemary and thyme, sage and lavender. You can do all of that. Now I'm still rolling because I wanted to do that layer. I want to do that 3 times because if you do that 3 times, you're going to get a pretty nice layering going on. And always, always roll from the middle of the dough out. Always. I'm going to be using a circular cutter, so it really doesn't matter if you make it oblong or if you make it sideways or if you make it round. You have fun with it because I basically have fun with it. Now you're going to see that you're going to roll it out to about half an inch, maybe half an inch. And I've got to go now and just wash my hands off again for a minute and grab the dish out of the oven that has the butter that's melting in it. One of the reasons it bakes so fast is because you have the preheated dish. I'm going to just go grab that dish out of the oven. Yeah, it's almost melted. There we go. But I need to put that on something so it doesn't burn the cupboard. And it's still melting down. I want to have it completely melted. It's actually a lot of butter in there. It's up to your choice. It's your choice how much butter and how buttery you want to make it. I'm going to remove a few things here so I can set it to the side, because as I'm cutting the biscuits, I need to put it directly into the dish. I'm walking in a circle again. What? It makes me very dizzy. I have to quit that. You don't do that. There, you see it's melted. Pretty melted. But maybe I better just take that off. I think it's fine to sit on the wood. Okay. Now, I'm going to use this size of a cutter. And you don't need to use this edge. You can just use the smooth edge. If you don't have anything like that, you can just use like a glass. A lot of people think, oh, I just don't have all these tools and all these things. But see, a simple glass like this does just fine. Watch. Like that. And you take them and you put it in the butter dish like that. And you're going to want these things to touch because they just seem to do better if they touch each other. Now, I like using my cutter because it cuts really nice edges. It's going to make about a dozen biscuits. These are going to rise to at least double. And you can reuse the biscuit with the little pieces that are on the edges, but they don't do as good as if you use the exact, because once you re-roll it, well, it's taking away some of the rising power of it. But I put it to the side and I'll put it in the fridge because later on I'll make something else with it. I don't like throwing out anything. There's always something you can use it with or for. I'm going to have a little extra dough, which is okay. It's better than having not enough. Bet you can smell those cooking already. Now, I've preheated the oven because I was melting the butter. So I just have to put a timer on. And it's going to need about 20 minutes. And I'm going, oh, I actually need to put that at 425. I have to preheat it to a little bit, 425. It needs to have a good strong oven in order to do that. And I will put the biscuits in the oven. As you can see, the pan's a little warm. I maybe should be using a pot holder so I don't burn my fingers. And in they go. And I have set it for 20 minutes. And we'll have a look at it later. Now, meanwhile, I'm going to take the plate that I put the butter on and take these biscuit pieces and put them on this plate. And I'll refrigerate them. And sometimes when the grandkids come or anything like that, I say, well, let's just make funny animals out of them or something. And they have fun. But by refrigerating it, you slow down the rising of the dough. But sooner than throwing it out, that's what I like to do. Now, while the biscuits are cooking, I'm going to get ready to prepare for making a quiche. I have a crust that's ready to go because I had it in the freezer, and I'm just going to make a bacon and onion and cheese quiche. Okay, moving myself around here a little bit. Now I've got the biscuits in the oven, and I'm going to make us a quiche, a bacon, onion, and cheese quiche. I'm going to start with chopping up some nice chunks of bacon here, very tiny pieces because I'm going to saute them up. So again, watch your fingers when you're cutting. You need about, I don't know, half-inch pieces. take 3 pieces of bacon and you just cut them into small chunks like that. So it's pretty obvious when you're making this quiche that you won't need to add salt because you're going to have enough. And even when you're choosing your bacon, try to choose bacon that has got a little less salt. Yeah, we don't need that much salt in our diets. Little salt is nice for flavor, but if you have too much salt, it just takes over. I'm going to go over to the stove right now and I'm going to preheat this pan that I have on here. I'm just going to take that out of there because it's sort of in my way. And I'm going to turn this on full blast because I want to do, I want it to sear right off. I don't want to have it sort of halfway cooking. Now I'm going to need a small knife because I want to peel. I've got a little wonderful drawer here that allows me that. That's just my oven coming to heat. Don't freak out. Nothing's burning. Nothing's ready yet. Now I'm going to just peel the onion quickly because I need that out of the way and ready to go. And I'll show you a really easy way to fine dice the onion. I'll talk a little bit about making a quiche. A lot of people find it a daunting thing. You see quiche, it's all pretty fancy. Well, it is a nice or a more fancy way of making an omelet. How many of you know how to make an omelet? If you know how to make an omelet, you got basically the same things. Now I'm just going to go and take the bacon and put it in the pan because 2 reasons for cooking up the bacon. You really want to get the fat out of there. Even after we fried up the bacon and the onions, we're going to put a paper towel to absorb all of the excess fat. Now while the bacon is in the pan and searing, and that will start soon, I'm going to dice up onion. I'm going to need a bowl out of here. You want to fine dice. You don't want to put too much stuff in the quiche, so I'm only going to do a half an onion. I'm going to just get rid of the peels for a minute in my handy dandy little place here. As soon as things start searing, I will put the fan on. It's going to make a little bit of noise, but it's good to get the smoke and the things out. Now here's what you do with the onion. Again, you got to watch your fingers, but you hold it back like this. Now the onion is the stem of the onion is on top and the bottom is there, so it holds together when you take the knife and you slice like this. And you make small slices because you're going to want to make this into a tiny dice. And the reason for putting the bacon in first and putting in the onion later is because onion is famous for deglazing the pan. That means taking all of the cooked on product that's on the bottom of the pan, right? So now, with the knuckle against the blade, like that, the knuckle against the blade, very, very, very fine slices. Look at your fine dice. It's wonderful. You don't want great big chunks of onion in there. You don't want that in an omelet. You don't want it in most anything. So you can make it quite beautiful with a fine dice. Okay, now I'm just going to take the end piece away because that's something you can use in a soup or a soup stock or something. I'm just going to hold this in a bowl right now. Spilled onions everywhere. Take spatula. I'm going to go over here and get going on the bacon. Now it's going to splatter a little bit here, so I'm going to put a splatter screen on it. Kind of helps to deter that a little bit. I've got to check my biscuits. Oh, they're doing wonderful. I'm going to have to turn down the oven to 325. So I'm going to put bake and start again. Meanwhile, the bacon is going. Yeah, obviously it's too heat. And I'll be just about ready to throw the onions in there. I'm going to just put this over here because I need something to lean the screen I made a rhyme. I'm leaning the screen on it as I'm sauteing off the bacon. It's not quite ready, but it's okay. It's sauteing up beautifully. I put the fan on because it's going to get pretty smoky in here. Next thing I know, I'll have the fire alarm going off. Well, my neighbor's a firefighter, Adam. By the way, he's also in our band. He's our percussionist. Plays the cajon. And we were going to call ourselves, amicably as a band, we were going to call ourselves the Zoomin' Boomers because, you know, we're of that age. But darned if Adam didn't come along. And what is he? Now he's a calendar boy. He's he's on the firefighters, you know, calendar. And I think it's just awesome. Said we can't be a Zoomin' Boomer with you in our band. So it's fun. We tease him. Hey, calendar boy. Okay, as you see, this is pretty much ready to go. I'm just going to shut off the burner. While I'm here, I'm going to get in the oven too, because I have to move the biscuits to another level because they're cooking really fast on the top. See, beautiful. Put them down to the bottom level. Now, I'm going to take the screen off. I got to grab a piece of paper toweling over here because I do not want all the fat to go in. We got enough with the cheese and the crust, but you don't want to have all the extra fat and excess fat in your quiche. Now I'm going to set that aside because it needs to chill, because you don't want to put that in a hot, you don't want to put the hot stuff into a pie shell and with the cheese because it's going to melt things up. I'm just going to move a few things around here, and then I'm going to grab my quiche shell and put it over here. And now, grated a little bit of cheese. I'm not sure if I need to grate more, but I might. I had grated butter with this before, but I can use it for the cheese too. So, just a good chunk of cheddar cheese. I love it when you fry things, you know, your glasses just get all splattery. At one moment, I will clean them when I'm cleaning the dishes, I guess. So a little bit of cheddar cheese, and you're going to grate this with a box grater just into the bottom of the pie shell. It's kind of important that it goes into the bottom of the pie shell. There's a reason. You're going to make a mixture of eggs and cream and everything that goes in here, but there has to be a layer on the bottom of the pie shell to keep it from getting soggy. So here's the other mixture. I have a mixture. I got a little bit of Monterey Jack, and I've got white cheddar, and and it's 1/2 cup yellow cheddar. You might notice here I have table cream to the side. It's not a heavy cream, but it's an 18%. You can do that with coffee milk as well. That's kind of up to the individual. Now I'm just going to grab my eggs. They're in the fridge. In general, I like to keep my eggs out of the fridge so that they're room temperature. It seems to do a better job. Just move a few things. Love my island, just sometimes I got too much stuff on it to make it all sensible. So now for the egg mixture, you're going to need 3 whole eggs and 3 egg yolks. I'm really glad these cupboards are close and everything's handy that I can just reach as I need to. I'm going to shut the fan off. Don't need it on anymore. While I'm doing this, I'll talk a little bit about that beautiful piece of furniture up here, this fan. My daughter-in-law, Katie, Mesmer, who is a professional machinist and has a business in Lloydminster. Her and my son Wes made that. She created it. She planned it. My son picked the color. He did all the heavy bending. Unbelievable. What an amazing job they did. If you look at the fine detail on it and everything, it's fantastic. I love that this is here. Just look up on top there too. It's awesome. I'm just checking the biscuits while you're looking over there at the because you can see the detail, and I'm very proud of it. And I thought to myself, oh my gosh, that my kids would do that for me. It's just unbelievable. But then I realized, wait a minute, they like the food I cook. They like when I feed them. So they made beautiful things to help me out in my kitchen. I am very happy in this little kitchen. So you see I put 3 eggs into the dish, and now I'm going to put 3 egg yolks. That makes a better custard. If you have too much egg white, it gets a little bit too not soft enough, not tender enough. So it's an eggy dish. But like I said, it's kind of, if you want to make a really good French omelet, you're going to do the same thing. But I always separate in separate dishes than what I'm going to be cooking, because I don't want to have a disaster. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, I have to do a count. I am the count. I remember when I was raising my children, and we had Sesame Street? I think it was Sesame Street, and they had the count, and I used to make them sing along with me, and they would just run from the kitchen, because we had this crazy thing too where there was an opera singer singing the pierogi song. Does anybody there remember that? I think it was so funny. And well, I can give you a little piece of it. It's called Pierogies, 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 pierogies. And then it got into pierogies, pierogies, and those kids would just run. Anyway, so my kitchen and me. And I'm not even making pierogies. They will remember. And then I told the grandkids about this, and one day when my son Wes, that helped with that, came in the kitchen, I said to the kids, now. And we started singing that song. He just about had a fit. He laughed so hard. He says, oh no, not the grandkids too, you know. Okay, so now I'm mixing this up. Oh, I put a magic thing in there that nobody saw me do. Well, maybe you saw me do, but I didn't talk about. I'm going to do a little bit of cracked pepper, and I had a pinch of nutmeg. Very important little ingredient. The bacon and onions have cooled down beautifully. Fingers again. Going to sprinkle that in above the cheese like that. Nicely chilled down, because, yeah, otherwise it would just melt things up before I'm ready to put in the egg mixture. I'm going to put a little bit of cheese on the top, but on the average, the cheese is on the bottom. And you don't want to put too much other things in there, because you want this custard to happen. And that's my oven telling me that the biscuits are ready, so I have to have a quick look at that. And that's pretty good timing, because I'm just about ready to put, what if I got 2 different kinds of mitts? Oh, well, I guess that's in style. I've seen the kids wearing the socks. Ah, voila, look at this. That's the biscuits. Very sizzling and beautiful and nice. So I'm going to put them on the side. I'll shut off the screaming oven. That's probably smart. And because I'm not quite ready with the quiche. Okay, so the custard's ready. Now I'm just going to pour the custard in on top of everything. Just as simple as that. You don't want that to be too full, because you want to have a side of a crust going on in there. I'm going to take a little bit of cheese and put it on the top. Very cheesy, very rich. Just get 1 small slice each. Okay, and then that's going in the oven. I'll turn the oven back on as I'm ready to Put that in there. That's going to have to bake for about 40 minutes. Resetting the oven. Okay, so we're well into making this brunch. The biscuits are cooked, but it doesn't hurt for them to hold. In fact, they're a little too hot to handle right now. But I can show you later. I will open one up and show you the flakiness of it. And I just put the quiche in the oven, and that's going to take, well, just the right amount of time so that we can have two different brunch menus. Now, the next dish that I'm making is going to be I call it my signature dish. And it's called eggs a la Hollenberg. Yeah, I'm Sammy Hollenberg. I can't say Hollandaise because I kind of messed with that sauce. It's such a rich sauce, the Hollandaise, that I had to make my own. But first, I'm going to have you listen to a tune, another song, or a song that we have on our brand new album. I don't think I've talked to you about that. We have recorded a new album that we're releasing July 1st. I'm very proud of that. Happy birthday, Canada. And it's called Life's Kaleidoscope. I'm a singer-songwriter. My husband's my guitar player. When I'm not singing and writing, I guess I'm cooking, as you can see. So we're going to play a song right now while I'm cleaning up some things and getting organized for making the next dish. And it's called Watching the Ice Melt. Enjoy it. Stopped in for one on my way home. Lost in my own thoughts, in my own zone. When the door swung open wide, it was you, to my surprise. You walked right by and walked right up to her. When you kissed her on the mouth, I felt the room spinning around. Hard to breathe, harder to think. Now I'm watching as the ice melts in my drink. Last night you said I was the one. So who is that then clinging to your arm? Feeling so damn used, more than just a bit confused. When you turned to say hello, it left me stunned. Thought you were caught, but you just look so nonchalant, tongue-tied, feeling my heart sink. Now I'm watching as the ice melts in my drink. You played the tune, watched me fall, sounded true. I recall promises from the start. I played the fool, played the part. You broke the rules, broke my heart. Now I'm choking on the truth while my heart sinks, and the promises melt like ice in my drink. You played the tune, watched me fall, sounded true. I recall promises from the start. I played the fool, played the part. Well, I think I'm just about ready to start with the next dish. I took a frying pan, a skillet, and I just greased it a little bit. There's a reason for this. I'm going to be poaching eggs. But it just needs a touch. You don't want to have the grease in there. It's just for the pan so that the eggs don't stick to the bottom. Just something I've learned. Old-fashioned way of poaching eggs. I'm going to heat this water, and I'm going to add about a tablespoon of vinegar to the water. That will help the eggs to coagulate. Good measurement, right? So here she goes. I'm going to put a little bit of spinach in a pan as well because I'm going to wilt that down. I just like serving a little bit of green with this to make it a little healthier. This dish is a little healthier. It's going to be fairly eggy. I've pre-washed all this spinach, by the way, just so you know, and you should always do that when you're making up a dish with any kind of rotten vegetable, or any vegetable that you grow for that matter. Now, just putting things to the side. I've also got another pan going here. I'm going to have to move my biscuits to the side. Oh, we got to move this pan a little bit to the side. Oh, I'll just move it over to the side. I do use my copper pans for some things. It's not for everything. They're not just ornaments. Actually, I love cooking with copper. I'm going to preheat this also. I've got a bit of a splatter on my stove because of the bacon I was cooking. Now I have to separate some eggs for that. Yet again, I'm separating eggs. My gosh, I'm going to have to make a big omelet with an egg white omelet with all of the eggs that I'm separating, that's for sure. Oh, I need to put the egg whites there and the egg yolks in the double boiler. That's called a double boiler, by the way. Thank you. And separate another. I'm going to have 3 egg yolks in this pan. Now the traditional hollandaise sauce is very rich. It has got like a cup of butter, and you have to incorporate that into a really heavy eggy sauce. Well, I found a way to do this so that the flavors are there without all of the fat. It's already a fat enough thing. Now I need my magic wand, which I got over there. And I need a little spoon for scooping. This is perfect for that. And this whisk. Now I've got the egg yolks in here. Just about ready to go. I'm just going to lean them on there because I'm going to need a pinch of tarragon in there. Gotta find them. There it is. Some tarragon. Oh, and the water's coming to a boil already over here, so I'm just going to turn that right down because when you're poaching eggs, you don't want them to boil because the whites are going to just run all over the pan, and I want them to come together in the pan. So I'm going to put a pinch of tarragon in here, and I'm cooking with some kind of wine today. It's called Madeira. I had a lady that I knew who always makes this joke, and she always says, yeah, I love cooking with wine. And sometimes some of it gets in the food. Anyway, it's about, I'd say a tablespoon of Madeira that has to go in there. I'm just going to do a little switch around because I'm just preheating this. And I'm going to bring my water to this burner. It's going to be a better way to do, for me to stir it without burning myself. Okay, so now I'm going to put that on that water that is simmering. When you're making a sauce, you can't leave it. It's kind of important that you don't walk away from it. Now, so I've just broken up the yolks, put in those few things, and I need to take from the bottom 2 of these scoops of water before it boils, like just warm. Very important. That's what's going to make the sauce extremely light. And I just want the egg mixture to be over the hot water, not boiling water, right? Now I'm going to put a lid on this water because I want it to stay warm. Not quite ready for the eggs. It's going to be one of the last things you do. Put that in here. And I need to grab some lemon. I have lemons over here because it needs a little lemon juice. Now, I've walked away briefly from my sauce. It's not a wise thing to do, but I'll be back. Need to have the lemon juice in there. Very important. Very important ingredient, folks. At the end of this sauce, once it's complete, I'll have melted butter in it. But it will only be 2 tablespoons instead of a cup. And it will nap beautifully on top of the eggs. At the very end, I'll put a little bit of cracked pepper in it, and if necessary, a pinch of salt. And like I said, I don't do heavy duty on the salt, but with eggs, sometimes you do need a little bit, a hint. You kind of sample it as you go. Well, this is where I should be telling another story. When I was in chef school, we were asked to all make breakfast, and we had to make eggs Benedict with the hollandaise sauce. And they gave us this recipe, and it was just, yeah, the recipe didn't sit well with me because I didn't think it was going to work. I just was sure that it was going to break. So I changed it. I just messed around with it, and I sort of started making this recipe in a direction. I still put more butter than what they said at that time, but I kind of got in trouble for it because my sauce worked perfectly and nobody else's did, and I didn't think that the chef was too happy about that. So, but he couldn't do anything but pass me. I guess I was what you call a little bit of a rebel in the school. But I talked about that earlier, how I've had the experience of being in Europe and in fine restaurants over there and seeing some of the best cooking from the best chefs. And yeah, so I kind of was one step ahead of the game on that one. But now if you look here at the sauce, see how it's nicely binding? If you don't keep stirring it and you don't take care of it, it can turn into scrambled eggs really fast, right? And see, it's got enough thickness to it that it will definitely hold that little bit of butter that I'm going to be putting in it. So I'm going to shut off the heat right now. And I'm going to hold it off of the heat because I'm going to put this pan back to keep that water warm and just bring this forward. Now it's still on the heat because that's hot water, so I want to just watch it. Meanwhile, I'm just going to grab my little butter with the first day with my little lips. I'm going to grab a little dish with butter and melt it because that's got to get put into the sauce. Not immediately, so it doesn't matter. See, just a small chunk like that. Don't need much. A couple tablespoons. Good old microwaves. What would we do without them in our modern cooking world? Okay, so that's not real old-fashioned. But then, I didn't say this was an old-fashioned dish now, did I? I did not. So I'm going to put it on about 30 seconds, I think, to start. And then I got to give this another stir because it's still on the heat. Now, the heat it stopped boiling, so it's fine. Except that burner's warm too. That's the thing with electric heat, doesn't it? It holds its heat for a long time. I'm going to put this in here because I don't trust that it's going to go the wrong way. Now, I need a bowl. I need to clean up a bowl so that I have one, I guess. I wonder how my quiche is doing. I'm going to have to take a look inside. Looks like I got a little mess going on over here. Oh, isn't cooking fun? Where's my dishwasher? Okay, so that's definitely staying hot. One of the nicest ways to serve this dish. Oh, I need to be taller. Is in these little boats. So I'm going to serve it like that. I'm going to make it like that. Meanwhile, I'm going to sweat some spinach. Just put these back. I might need a couple extra dishes. Just turn that on for a minute because I believe that back burner is quite warm. Put that on high, and I'm going to put the eggs into the water because they take a little bit of time. I will talk about the dish when I get finished with it to explain what it's all about. So 1 egg at a time, separate. You do it separate in a bowl like this to make sure that you have nothing wrong with any of the eggs. It can happen. I've had it happen. I often like to use farm egg products too. 1 at a time. And I'm going to take a peek at the quiche as soon as I've got these in the oven. I've got to whisk this up. Oh, the quiche is doing awesome. This is 2. Oops. And I'm just going to get a lid on top of the spinach because it needs to be just wilted. I don't want to boil it. There's a difference between boiling and wilting spinach. So it's just going to come to heat. I'm going to take the lid off. And I'm going to serve the eggs on the bed of spinach. So I just want to make sure they're not sticking to the bottom, right? And they shouldn't be. This I can put to the side. I think my butter's ready. It's quite an undertaking, but I love it. Now this is only if you want to serve 2 different kinds of dishes. You don't have to. It's just what I like to do. What if you got a picky person that doesn't like onions? No, you don't have anybody like that in your family, do you? See, I'm incorporating the butter very slowly into the sauce. Like that. You have to keep stirring. And it stays nice and smooth. And now it's finished, and it's just sitting over the warm water. So I can actually I'm going to shut off the eggs. Right? They're not done. But I'm going to put a lid on them so that they finish. And then I've got to tend to my spinach. Because as you see, it just came to a boil. It only had a wee little bit of a water in there. Who says we're not eating healthy? So what if there's a lot of butter? There's spinach. Right? There's spinach. So now I'm just going to drain that off. Right? There was very little water. See? It didn't even need draining. And then I'm going to just keep these warm. Put them in the oven for a minute because I'm going to serve those at the last minute and put them in there at the last minute. Not on the hot burner. Good thing it sizzles away and tells me what's going on. I've just looked at the quiche and it's doing wonderfully. It's always nice when you're serving a warm meal too that you put the plates or the bowls or the things that you're serving it with in the oven because it will hold your food nicely and warm. I'm just going to put these plates on the side, also to the side of the oven, because I don't want to burn anything when I take the plates out. Now you don't need to add butter to the spinach because that's just going to be on the bottom and there's going to be all that nice sauce in there. There's the eggs. Look how beautiful the eggs look. So a touch of salt in the spinach, and a touch of cracked pepper in the spinach. And those dishes that I put in the oven, I'm going to take out right now. And as I put it all together, you will see. And while I'm putting this together, I'm going to have you listen to another song off of our CD. It's called Life's Kaleidoscope. And I think we're going to play the song, Life's Kaleidoscope. Happy listening while I put this together.
When I was a child, I received a very special toy, a kaleidoscope with a wish for each twist and turn to bring me joy. Each twist of the wrist kept me amused for hours, watching flowers turn to diamonds and diamonds back into flowers. Then with the slightest of hand, all those stones came tumbling down. As I grew, I quickly knew this was a lot like life somehow. Little twists and sudden turns, like the stones the world turns upside down. And that's life, not always kind, not always as you hoped. The alteration of life in all its scope is just one turn in life's kaleidoscope. Ring around that rosy pocket full of posy. Life throws curves and we all fall down. Pick it up, dust it off. There's no time to mope. It's a living and laughing and loving and crying when dreams collide with hope. It's just one more twist, one more turn in life's kaleidoscope. Have you ever tried to turn it back? That kaleidoscope. Those stones just never fall the same way as you hoped. Like life, lay it forward, let the stones fall off your back. You can't fix it, you can't go back, you can't live in the past, leave the past in the past.
There you go. You're going to see the finished product here in about a moment. Of course, the most important thing is to top it with a little bit of hollandaise sauce. There's two ways of doing this. You can actually gratinate this, like put it under the broiler after you have the sauce on. You see the sauce has turned out just absolutely creamy and beautiful. And it's not so rich, and you're going to nap it across like so. Just napping across. And then I will hold this over by the heat for a moment. See, and you don't have too much sauce. I made enough sauce for 4 people. But then there are people who are a bit saucy, like me, and they want a little more. Now, you'll see the presentation. It's gorgeous. It's gorgeous. I'm just going to put my salmon out of the way and my sauce. And I like to put a little bit of dill. I'm growing herbs of all sorts in my garden. I've just plucked this out of the garden this morning, and it's wonderful to serve this dish with a little bit of dill on the top like that. Not that much, it's a bush. And a touch of cracked pepper. Oh, what am I thinking? I should be using my big pepper mill. Well, I'll save that for the next show. Meanwhile, I've got to go grab the quiche and get it out of the oven. And it is done, which is awesome. And we're going to have a full-fledged brunch meal. Oh, doesn't want to come out on me. Here we go. The mitts are too big. That's it. I'm not clumsy. The mitts are too big. Look at that for a beautiful quiche. So now we've got the quiche. We've got the biscuits. Here. And I'm going to show you the biscuits really fast. How they come apart and how beautiful and buttery they are. So you serve it beautifully on a plate like this. If you're taking this, or if you're taking the quiche piece, it doesn't matter. But I'm going to serve them like this right now because it gives you a really good idea. Are you coming to my house for brunch? Is what my question is. And then I take one of these biscuits out and I'm going to tear it apart. You see, if you look really close at this part, you see all the layers in there. That's how you know you got a buttery biscuit. See that? Well, you're welcome to my Sammy's Cottage kitchen anytime you want to show yourself up here. And I will be happy to throw some buttery biscuits. I can make a Hollenberg specialty and or a nice slice of quiche. I hope you've enjoyed your time with me today here at Sammy's Cottage Kitchen. Man, my sisters were really right about me making all the dishes in the house dirty. But look at the meal. I think it's something that everybody would like to sink their teeth into. And instead of having like a really meaty meal, you can change the salmon and you can put pork, ham on it. That's up to you. But I would like to say, try it with the salmon. You will enjoy it. It's not that hard and it doesn't take that much time to make. So I'd like to see you again when I'm back. Welcome to my kitchen again. For the time being, just enjoy. You can reach me at 306-743-7514. If you would like to take private cooking lessons, I'd be very happy to teach you any of these. You can find my recipes and RCD on my website, www.sammyrosehollenberg.com.